everyone, this is Travis, and I just wanted to say right now that I think Super Mario 64 is one of the best games of all time. It has so many things to love about it that you can't find in any other game. Super Mario 64 was and still is an all-time classic. It really was such a great game to launch with for the Nintendo 64. Okay, now before we start kissing this game's ass, we have to go way back to the 7th of September 1994, where Super Mario 64 first started development. The placeholder title given to the name was Ultra 64 Mario Bros. It was most likely given this name because the placeholder title for the Nintendo 64 was the Ultra 64, which then was promptly changed to what we know it as the Nintendo 64. Not much was known about the game until it was unveiled at Space World 1995 on November 22, 1995. Two games were playable at this event to show off the power of the console: Kirby Ball 64, which was most likely reworked into the game we know it as today as Kirby Air Ride.
But who cares about that? We have Super Mario 64.
The first 3D Mario game and one of the first 3D platformers ever made, and definitely the perfect game to show people that Nintendo means business. This was shaped up to be the best Nintendo console launch of all time. The playable demo featured at the event was wildly different than the final game. Odd colors for objects, different level design, removed enemies, even Mario's voice was changed to sound like Mario had a ketamine addiction. The next time the game was playable for the public was on E3 1996. This build is a lot more similar to the build we have now. Obviously, there were a few differences here and there, but it was a lot easier to grasp the fact that it was basically the same game. About a month later, on June 23, 1996, the game was released in Japan, and 3 months later overseas, on September 26th, the game was released here in North America at the same year. Now, was it worth the wait? Yeah. So Super Mario 64 was now released, and now we get to see that sweet, sweet 1996 graphic Mario face. The future is now. As we boot up, we see the main menu where we can do what we want with our save files. I always loved this music growing up as a kid. It always makes me feel relaxed, and sometimes I would just leave it as playing in the background. Speaking of, let's talk about a little personal history. When I was too old for diapers but not enough for kindergarten, I would stay at my babysitter Audrey's house. I was a stupid little kid and she probably couldn't put up with my whiny ass and just left me to do whatever on my own. After going through my friend's room, who happened to be the daughter of Audrey, I saw a Nintendo 64 inside her dresser. I asked her, "What is this thing?" She responded with, "That's a Nintendo 64. It's a video game." Now this was the first time I've ever heard of a video game console, so I was curious to see what the honking thing did, so we called Audrey over to help us set it up in the living room TV so I could play it. When I saw the big Mario face on the startup screen, I thought we were watching a movie, but little did I know that I was actually about to play this game. Audrey then hands me the controller and says, "Go ahead, press start." From there on out, I spent almost every day of daycare putting in so much time playing Super Mario 64. It was my first game ever, and what a game to start it off with. I was so proud of myself when I beat the final boss that when I got home that night, I told my mom everything. Anyway, back to the game. Super Mario 64 opens up with Princess Peach inviting Mario over to have some cake. Get your mind out of the gutter, jeez. Then we see Lakitu on a cloud holding a camera. We then learn that he is like the camera of the game, and that's why the camera won't fucking work! Anyway, after we meet him, we see Mario jump out of the pipe, and wow. This shot right here was what hundreds of thousands of children saw on Christmas Day of 1996. Beautiful 3D graphics, Mario in the flesh, blocky organs and all. What an opening. So then we walk into the castle and, uh-oh, Bowser stole the Power Stars. So that's basically the plot of Super Mario 64. There isn't much to it, but it shouldn't be. It's a Mario game. What do you think this is, the Bible? So we are gridded with 4 playable stages and 8 stars in each world. Each stage contains 7 regular stars and 1 star granted for collecting 100 coins, which also grants you 1 extra life. How nice. Let's go to the stages, shall we? So we jump into the first stage, which is Babam Battlefield. This is a great first level. We have all of this to look for in the distance. We see a mountain, a floating island, a lot of Babams, and the scariest thing to cross our childhood minds. This thing. The first star is pretty self-explanatory. We go through the battlefield and climb the mountain. We then make it to the top as we find King Babam himself. We have to beat him by grabbing him and throwing him 3 times. But be careful, because if he throws you off the mountain, a broken TV is insured. The rest of the stars are pretty straightforward. Some of them require you to activate a cannon first, and some are only allowed to be collected after activating a certain power-up. But we will talk about those later. It is a good time to mention that you can get a red coin star in each level, which involves you going around the map and trying to find 8 red coins. I can definitely say though that the star that requires you to break the stake holding the chain chomp is such an easy star, and that it is the only one that I did first as a kid, and possibly many others can agree with me on that. Now we hop into Woops Fortress, where we are given the task to scale a giant fortress with thwomps, womps, piranha plants, and all that jazz on the way up. After we get to the top, we meet King Thwomp. To defeat him, you must ground pound him 3 times, and it should be pretty easy. When you start up the second star, we see that when we get to the top, we see that King Thwomp is no longer there, but instead an extension to the castle. Some believe that people used his corpse to make that castle. So what? His minions in memory of their king built a fortress out of his dead body? How barbaric. After we get up that little bit, we secure our second star. There is one more star I want to talk about in this world, and that is the star where you have to get an owl out of this tree and ride it all the way into a cage in the sky. This star is pretty frustrating, because we have to land in this cage, but we have to let go at the perfect time or else we will fall to our death. It isn't helped by the fact that the depth perception on this star is a little frustrating. I like to imagine that the owl is literally trying to stay in the air for dear life holding 300-pound Mario, hoping to not rip the owl's leg off. The next stage is Jolly Roger Bay, and it is set in this sort of wrecked pirate shipyard, and it has a great atmosphere. The music in the stage is great too, and many people can agree that this is one of the more relaxing stages of the game. The 4th star we get involves luring the giant eel, which most likely made all of us collectively shit our pants back then. As we plunder into the sunken ship, we see 4 treasure chests. Open the right ones at the right combination and the ship will rise out of the water, and we can collect our first star. In any following star, we can see that the ship is always rocking back and forth on the water, signifying that we have completed the first star. That is one thing I really like about this game too, is that your actions sometimes carry over into other stars. The last star I want to talk about in this world is the Blast of the Pillar star, which requires you to open a cannon and shoot to these spiky pillars you can climb on, to jump over to this ledge and collect the star. I never did the star correctly because I didn't know that these spikes were climbable, so I would always aim to the left of it, and with trial and error I would reach the star eventually, but not before falling into the water countless times. The next stage we go into is Cool Mountain, which as a kid I really got frustrated with. The slippery ice floors would always send me off the mountain. The first star is inside the chimney, where we break into the house and commit burglary. Or we could fall down and end up in a massive snow track. That's cool too. This slide was never difficult to me. I would always cheat and just fall down here. After we walk out the door, we can grab our first star. The last star I want to mention involves us getting way down to the bottom of the mountain to do a bunch of wall kicks to grab another star. But the funny thing is about this star is that it involves you opening this cannon and having to shoot to a tree and then making your way over there. But back then I would just jump off this part of the mountain and pray to God that I can land down there and not fall to my death. That's all I have to say about this course. Now if we manage to get 10 stars or more, we can play the wing cap stage by looking this mural on the ceiling. In this stage you fly around and try to collect 8 red coins and miserably fail many times over in the process. Fuck! 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 After activating the wing cap switch, we can now collect the wing cap in any stage that has a red box. Now we can head into Bowser's Dark World, where we have to walk into this room where it appears to be just a painting of Princess Peach, but as we slowly approach, it slowly turns into a Bowser painting. I don't know why this slightly scared me as a kid, probably because I wasn't expecting to fall down this hole, and it felt like a really weird way to enter the stage. We have to take a long trip through the dangerous obstacles and platforming in this stage. We can collect 8 red coins if we want to also. Now let's head down this pipe and we could throw Bowser by the tail into one of these bombs to secure the key to the basement. But before we go down there, we can go to the backyard where we can defeat this Boo to get to the Big Boo's haunt. Imagine fitting this level in your mouth. I'm gonna be real with you, I was so proud of myself for fighting this stage as a kid. It is in such a weird spot that someone would have had to have felt proud for the first time. Anyway, we jump in and we find this huge mansion. As we go inside, we are greeted by so many doors to go through. I've always loved this stage because it really does encourage exploration and is just generally a great stage for atmosphere too, with the creepy music playing in the broken down rooms. After we defeat all the Boos, we can get our first star. I think the coolest star is where you have to go to the basement of the mansion to the merry-go-round. This place made me feel very uneasy as a kid because of the unsettling music and the many paintings of the ghosts. To secure this star, you have to defeat all the Boos that come out of the paintings, and then you can beat King Boo himself. Secure the star and we are off to the basement. Our first stage is going to be Hazy Maze Cave, and don't burn me at the stake for saying this, but this is one of my favorite levels in the game. I love the dark, creepy cavern with this low-key and creepy music that fits the stage perfectly. I also love all the different stars they could do that have their own objective, like having to navigate through a toxic maze where it can kill you if you stay in there for too long. There's another one where you have to make your way through these giant boulders, Indiana Jones style, and then climb up this wall to collect another star. There's another one where you have to ride the Loch Ness Monster to grab the star. It is a good time to mention that you can actually ride the beast over to the part of the room where you can go through this door. It looks awfully similar to the hole that we jumped into to enter the stage. Yes, this area is the game that turns you into Metal Mario. All the mercury in this body is gonna bite him in the butt a little bit later. Hazy Maze Cave happens to be the only stage in the game that has a cap hidden in it. Just like Big Boo's haunt, I was very proud of myself discovering this as a secret for the first time. I could definitely hang this one up on the fridge. Anyway, you can collect another 8 red coins in this stage, as well as activate the metal cap switch that allows you to get the metal cap in any stage that has the green switch. After we are done with this stage, we can head over to Lethal Lava Lands. Look at this painting. This implies that you were in for one hell of a ride for this level. As we hop in, we see that a majority of this stage is covered with lava. Strangely, this isn't the final level. It's weird, because in most of the Mario games, the lava thing levels are usually ones of the last. It is a bit difficult, especially when you jump into the volcano to collect these 2 stars. But screw the lava, because when you get enough stars, we can ride the Koopa Shell. You can also commit mass murder and select another star. You can also commit homicide and collect this star. There is one section where you have to walk onto the sliding puzzles to collect 8 red coins to get another star. I've always found this part weird because why is there a sliding puzzle in such a level? There isn't much to talk about with this one. This is one of the lesser loved levels of the game. It's personally one of my least favorite as well. Now we can head over to Shifting Sandland, which is actually one of my favorite levels of the game. It is interesting because a desert level like Shifting Sandland isn't usually a level that is seen upon as great in many eyes, because in general, desert levels are kind of boring, but this one has a lot to do. You can blow up in the top of this pyramid to go inside it and get a few more stars. You could fight this IROC boss, which is what you have to break open the top of the pyramid to get inside. You could also kill this bird to get another star. I really hate this section though with a bunch of the flipping cubes. Sometimes it's really glitchy and it just sends you into the quicksand straight away. What I do love about this stage though is when you go inside the pyramid. The tricky platforming and the atmospheric music is really something else in this level. Now we can head over to the next Bowser door. We can now see a huge wall of water. Jumping into it will show the next stage being Dire Dire Docks, a stage that is mostly underwater. This stage is one of the more strange in the game.
There isn't much to do other than swimming through the cavern and exploring the inner workings of a water base. We can find a submarine, which is apparently what Bowser used to get into the castle. After we complete this stage, we can go into the Bowser and the Fire Sea. Once again, similar to Leaf of Lava Lands, it's covered in lava. After we make our way through a treacherous obstacle course and collect 8 more red coins, we can finally head into the next Bowser fight. It is probably a good time to talk about this room here. I love rooms like this because it reminds me of something called liminal space. When you see images like these, it makes you feel strangely familiar with them even though that you've never seen them before in these locations. It's just so weird that a room like this exists in such a fancy castle. We swim down here and we find 2 pillars and a sign next to it that says, "It is decreed the one shall pound the pillars. If you do so, this flooded room will then drain all of its water." That's a lot of floor damage, Mario. You better clean all this up when you're done saving the princess or whatever. When you go down the door in the room, you find yourself outside the castle, and it turns out that you are in what used to be the castle moat. Heading over to this hole in the ground, jumping inside will reveal the final cap stage, being the Vanish Cap. This stage isn't too bad. Once again, collect all 8 coins and collect the star as well as activate the cap switch. Just don't be an idiot and do this. Now you can use the invisible cap in any stage that has a blue block. Our first stage is Tall Tall Mountain, which is definitely one of the harder courses. It all has to do with all the platforming that is above a perilous fall. I've always hated this section with the mushrooms. I would always fall off. We could beat the crap out of this monkey, which is cool, I guess. We could also hop into the last bonus slide of the level, and this is definitely the hardest out of the 3. I hate false paths. The red coin star in this level 2 is actually really hard, because if you jump to this mushroom and you happen to fall off, it's game over. After that, we head over to Tiny Huge Island. This stage is based on the level in Super Mario Bros. 3 where all the blocks and enemies are huge. The cool thing about this world is that if you enter the big or small painting, you can go to either a big or small world. The small world is definitely a lot easier because it is so much more simple to navigate. Look at these enemies. It feels like I'm a titan compared to these things. One thing I like about this section is that if you ground pound the top of the mountain in the small world, the water will drain. You can head over to the same section in the big world. In the big world, you can hop down this hole and beat the Wiggler as the boss of the world. The rest of the stars I like because all of them involve you traveling between the large and small world, like exterminating these plants in the big world on this section, or heading over to this one section in the big world to collect 8 red coins. The next level is Snowmans Land. Oddly, this is a second snow-themed level. I really like how this room is laid out. There is a big mirror reflecting everything. We can even see Lakitu behind us. If you look through the painting in the mirror, you notice there is one painting that doesn't show up in the real world, and that painting happened to be in the blank space on the wall over here. As we jump in, we have a lot to do. We can climb up to the big snowman, but be careful, if he blows you off, a broken TV is insured. You can go inside this igloo, collect the star with the invisible cap. You can also go over here and defeat this ice bully for another star. There's a lot to do to this level, and this is also one of my favorite ones too. The next level is Wet Dry World, and I just wanted to say now that I think this level has quite the history, but I will talk about that later. Wet Dry World has 2 variants to it, the high water level and the low water level, each giving you more or less access to the rest of the stars. The cool thing is that if you enter this painting from either the top or the bottom, it may determine if you get the high water level or the low water level. I love little details like that. Anyway, this level to me always seems creepy. I don't know why, but it just seems off. It may be just because this level invokes the feeling of loneliness, and it kind of has that liminal space thing I was talking about with the Vanish Cap. The strange thing is about this level is that if you fall into this cage and navigate through these water tunnels, you can find the abandoned town. The reason why it might be abandoned is because of the flood. Another interesting little tidbit of information is that some of the assets building these houses in this town was also used in the making of the beta footage in Ocarina of Time. You can see it here with the doors and some of the walls, but it just seems weird to me. Like outside of Peach's castle, there really hasn't been any signs of civilization, and the only instance we see of that is an abandoned town underwater. Anyway, we've gone over a lot of stages so far, but we are on the final stretch here. Let's head to the 3rd floor. The third floor has 3 stages, that being Tick-Tock Clock, Rainbow Ride, and the Wing Cap Challenge stage. Let's talk about the Wing Cap bonus stage first. This level has Mario once again flying around with the Wing Cap in a sort of bonus stage. This stage always seemed weird to me because it was huge, almost enough to warrant more than 1 star. This stage may have been planned to be an 8-star traditional stage, but it was probably cancelled due to time constraints. After that stage, we head over to Tick-Tock Clock. This stage is ridiculously hard and it involves you climbing and navigating through the inner workings of a grandfather clock. The cool thing is if you enter the stage when the hour hand and minute hand are at different parts of the clock, it can affect the speed at which the level goes. The only star I really remember is the one where you have to go to the very top and reach the area with the womp, and the star that involves you getting the 8 red coins on these switches. They are kind of frustrating and may involve a lot of backtracking if you fall off. This is a really great stage, but it is kind of ruined for how hard it is. The last traditional stage of the game is Rainbow Ride, by far the hardest stage of the game. There are so many ways that you can fall off the map and there is wind everywhere. Moving carpets, there is this pirate ship looking thing, and you can even fire the cannon to get a star up here. The one I definitely remember the most is the one where you have to ride the carpet to get to the top of the house. Now if you are really good at this game, you can just do carpetless. Yeah, Travis, why don't you just do carpetless? Here we are, the final stage of the game. Bowser in the Sky is roughly the same idea as the 2 other Bowser stages, but this time a lot harder. After you make your way through the top, you meet Bowser at the start of the final level. You have to throw him by the tail again, but this time you have to do it 3 times. The more you throw him, the more the stage slowly loses parts and it turns into a star. Some people may say that the internal star powers this arena, and that's why it slowly turns into a star, because Bowser's diminishing health shows a sign of the stage weakening. After you defeat Bowser, you are finally able to collect the final star and fly off with the wing cap. When you fly back, you can find Peach in the courtyard, and she is finally free from her prison. She then invites Mario over to have some cake and the credits roll. But hang on, we are not done yet. Now is the time that I talk about my favorite thing about this game, the beta content and the rumor/lore. I know some of you may have heard of the Super Mario 64 iceberg. You know, this one, where there's a bunch of little tidbits and story and beta content as you progress farther down the iceberg. When you get farther down, the more obscure knowledge about the game is revealed. I love this because it implies that even though this game is very kid-friendly and happy in the traditional Mario, it does have its darker parts. I want to run down some of the details of the iceberg. Not all of them, just a few of the ones that caught my eye. In shifting Sandland inside the pyramid, you can see one of the textures on the wall, and you can see the letters ET. This may just poke fun at the silly conspiracy that say that aliens built the pyramids, or this is just a subtle nod to the movie. In Wet Dry World, in the skybox of the level, you can clearly see what looks to be a city that is completely submerged underwater. It turns out this is the picture of a city in Spain, a place in real life. And that leads to the question that is all the skyboxes in the game someplace in real life? I mean, in Babam Battlefield skybox, you can see what looks to be a couple of islands in the distance. This might be a nod to Super Mario Sunshine, where the game takes place in Delfino Island. In Bowser in the Sky, you can see this cloud that is shaped awfully like the final boss of Super Mario Sunshine, though I think this one is a bit more of a coincidence. People have wondered for a while now what the texture is of Metal Mario in the hole in the ground to the entrance of the Hazy Maze Cave. It turns out that the texture is actually a picture of flowers for some reason. I thought as a kid that it almost looked like Ganondorf if you squint hard enough. In Wet Dry World, people have reportedly have a lot of negative emotional aura surrounding this level. This might be because of what I talked about earlier with Liminal Space, about the fact that the level seems to be void of any life outside of the water bugs. It is believed that Hazy Maze Cave is actually the castle's sewers. You can see in the room before you enter, it looks like there are pipes that go straight into the floor, and also the fact that Hazy Maze Cave in general is a maze that you navigate through claustrophobic tunnels. In Dire Docks, it is said that the hole that you get sucked into is the entrance to how Bowser got into the castle in the first place. It is also an interesting detail. It brings you to the lake outside the castle. In the backyard of the castle, you can see that the outside, if you look at the door leading back into the castle, you can see that the entrance is made of bricks, not like the white walls that fit the rest of the outside. This may imply that Bowser broke the door to break into the castle. In the lobby, if you look up to the wall above the entrance of the castle, you can see a mural of Peach with the purple background. If you go inside and look at the mural in front of the castle, you can see a picture of Peach with the blue background. There is clearly a space between the mural and the one inside. Could this be where Peach was imprisoned during the game? It would make sense because that's where she came out of at the end of the game to see Mario again. There are so many little secrets and hidden details that people are still finding out today, and it still amazes me that so much love was put into a game that came out back in 1996. So many children, including me, have had so many great memories of the game, and all that it includes. It has a special place in many of our hearts, and this game time and time again has really made me appreciate all that Nintendo has done to make this game what it is. And as the first 3D Mario game, I know it really was the perfect game for the Nintendo 64. Been one heck of a video. I mean, I cannot believe it actually became this long. I guess I just rambled a bit too long, but I really do think this is one of the best games ever made. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, go ahead and like the video, and while you're at it, why don't you subscribe as well. You should also go ahead and follow my Twitter and Instagram. It'll be linked down in the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video. See ya!